Hello everybody, it's Nick Dutch back on the camera again one more time, and there seems to be some kind of confusion brought about by the last video that I put out there. Of course, the first thing I've got to learn is try my hardest not to use the quick capture feature on YouTube because it takes rather a long time. Once you've shot the thing, it then takes ages to render it for preview, and then once it's rendered it for preview, it then takes even longer. So I might as well just carry on with doing shooting and editing in whatever way I see fit. Now, on the subject of should we try and attack other people's beliefs, the answer is quite simply it is a very grey area, and I'm going to illustrate this in a few different ways. The first way is, let's say an individual is struggling with a habit such as trying to give up smoking. They choose to go for hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy is of course an irrational action because it is essentially based upon suggestion and trying to influence the deeper workings of the mind. That is of course irrational, however it does seem to have some benefit. Now let's say you were to scream at this person, "It's not gonna work, it's not gonna work," prior to them going for each and every single one of their hypnotherapy sessions. Do you think that would help? Of course not. And the fact that you were shouting, "It's not gonna work, it's not gonna work," at them could actually be putting their lives at risk. So if there is something that someone is doing which is going to have some kind of operation on their own mind, which could do them some good, it's not always worthwhile trying to help them in that way. If, on the other hand, the individual believed quite strongly that one hypnotherapy session, not a series of them, but one singular hypnotherapy session, would cure them of AIDS, cancer, or some other nasty disease, then maybe it would be worthwhile explaining that there's a very slim chance that there would be any success there, and precisely how slim that could be. That's another issue. Okay, those are two separate situations. In the first situation, it's actually wrong to even approach someone and tell them it's not going to work, because it is an irrational exercise, it can work because it's operating on the deep subconscious mind. In the second example, the individual had taken too much faith, applied too much faith to the exercise of the hypnotherapy session, and as such maybe they need to be steered in a slightly different direction. But it also depends upon how you do it. I'm going to illustrate this in a couple of other ways as well. Many years ago, a man came to me looking for some kind of guidance, help and support. He was someone who'd gone through a pretty rough, to say he'd gone through a pretty rough time would be the most substantial understatement in the whole history of humanity. This guy had been abused in every possible way, and I felt really sorry for him. But he'd also started to develop some rather strange obsessions and strange beliefs, which I'm not going to go into in this video. I took a fair chunk of my time to try and educate him out of these extreme beliefs because they were getting a little more irrational, a little more dangerous with the passage of time. And all I did was making matters worse for him, because he started to develop even more eccentric, schizophrenic or psychotic type beliefs. So I thought, this is the wrong method for this individual. He doesn't need education, because this particular individual cannot handle it, and it's making him worse. So I then took the other approach, and instead of overburdening his brain with ideas and thoughts, which could actually, help a person who is rational, which of course he was not rational, he'd gone mentally ill, I took the other tack. And instead I said, well, forget everything that I've said, and I wrote down a list of a few things that would be useful for him. Like, number one, being grateful for, the fact that the sun shines, that he's got food on the table, to accept the past, and to try and move forward through life with love and tolerance and happiness. Which was a little puke-making, but that's what I did. And the result on him was absolutely amazing. because he actually did become calm, he did become more civilized, he managed to lose, objectively, noticeably lose some of the insane obsessions he previously had, and started to actually basically get himself a bit better, slowly and surely, and that was, as a result of me not giving him an education, choosing not to educate him and show him different ways of looking at problems, but to give him something simple and essentially faith-based. So that's also something else you got to bear in mind. Maybe it's because a person's going through a lot of bad stuff, or maybe it's because a person just can't deal with reason. They need something else which can help them. Sometimes it's a question of who the heck are you and I to see ourselves as being great people who are there to control other people and their minds and their attitudes and their views and their values, because people have a certain quantity of choice over these things, and they have a certain quantity of self-knowledge as well. And so all we can do is possibly provide another possibility, but also be sensitive to where the individual's coming from. Even later in life, from that time, I built a relationship with this one particular girl, and during the relationship I told her that there's this group of people I personally had an issue with, essentially due to their political opinions. The relationship carried on. I carried on telling her about this group of people because basically what I didn't want to do is to come over as the person who's trying to control her and trying to control the relationship in an aggressive manner. And then after about 6 months, she actually found out about this particular group and then chose to join them. I personally found this very painful, because it suggested to me that maybe she was actually in sympathy with some of these rather extreme political views and religious views that this particular group of people had. What I realized with the passage of time is that this one particular woman was someone who was not capable of choosing something which is based upon a reason. She is someone who needed an enemy, and for the enemy to be told to her, who it is and what it is. She's someone who needed to have total simplification and to provide control over her life to an authoritative body, rather than to be dominated by reason and logic and breaking ideas down and trying to get critical and trying to find out more about the way the world works. She was not capable of doing that. It was impossible for her. It's like trying to mix oil and water. And it was not my job to enforce my views into her. And so I let her go and basically showed a certain level of contempt for her attitude. And it was a very painful time for me, because I'd invested an awful lot of love in her. But yeah, it was up to her as a grown adult to make some decisions about what she thought and who she should be with and how she should live her life. And there's very little I could do about it. I am not the person who's there to discipline everyone to think the way that I do. I'm not there to be the one who is a replacement or a substitute for Jesus Christ or Buddha or Mohammed or whoever. I am just a human being, and so are you. Whether you're an atheist, whether you're an agnostic, no. It is not actually morally right under all circumstances for you to attack people's faith. sometimes you will actually be doing the individual more harm than good. And I know this from direct personal experience of dealing with people. I mean, yeah, here I am on YouTube, I'm just speaking my mind and saying my truth, and people can choose to accept what I say or reject what I say. But I suppose the important thing is, I'm not forcing you to think the way that I do. All I can do is state my case, I can argue my position to the best of my limited ability, and that's it. Human beings tend to act on the irrational level much more than on the rational level. We think in terms of our political opinions or our views or the views of individuals in the media. We express ourselves through stories or through analogies or using references to popular culture. We are not pure, perfect reasoning beings. We have to understand and accept that.